Right there.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the KetoMom page. My name is Stephanie. This is my amazing husband, Steve. And he's going to help me. He's going to help me talk about goals today.
I'm ready.
The title of chapter 12 is Use Goals to Help You Grow. That is what we're talking about. We've got this chapter and one more chapter, and we're done with the book. And we picked out the next book for next month. Do you want to share it?
The new book?
Yeah. Have you read this book?
I have read this book. It was a while ago that I read this book. But
Me too.
It is pretty impressive because how many of you, if you could, how many of you would like to jumpstart not just your life, but possibly your income and your success? If you're interested in knowing how to do that next month, we're going to do that with the compound effect.
I've been getting the question, what book are we going through in April? It's been 1 year in April that we've been hopping on and doing mindset and reading books together. This is the book that we chose off our bookshelf. Steve read it. I think I've browsed through it years ago. We have so many books, so I know I've looked through it, but I actually haven't read it. So we're going to go through this one together.
Well, that's the one thing that I do love about what Stephanie does is that so often she'll grab a book and she'll just kind of fly through it and she'll highlight things and she'll underline some things. But then the biggest difference between what I've seen with Stephanie and probably a lot of other people is that she takes those highlights and those underlines and then she puts them into play. She puts them into action. And so we're going to talk about that today with your goals and what that looks like.
Right. Actually, that's something that our CEO talked about us. I remember him saying there was somebody that came to an event and they talked about how many books they're reading. And he said, I don't care if you read 20 books or one book. The key is what you're learning are you putting into play.
It's so good.
So if you've been tuning in here for over a year, you've been reading all of the books with us, which means you should have a higher awareness. You should have hopefully better systems and habits in place. Hopefully you've taken action on the things that we've read and talked about.
That's good.
If you haven't,
welcome.
It's time to start.
Welcome. Today is the day. Well, and that's
So-
the other thing too, is sometimes we can get just caught up in just thinking through things and never putting things into action.
Yes.
And so hopefully today is that day that if you feel like you haven't had the permission to be able to go and execute your dreams and your ideas, well, guess what? You are allowed to do that.
Yes. So whether you get the book or follow along here, we'll be starting this in April. We're going to wrap up this book. We've got a couple of days left, and then we may just hop on for the last couple of days of the month or maybe a day or two and just give you our insight on whatever we want to talk about.
Oh,
That
could be fun.
We'll have to see.
What would be some things that you would want us to talk about?
Ooh, I like that
Comment
question.
down below. What are some... Well, I'd love to know two things. Either one, if you've been listening along to Stephanie over the last year, what are some things that you've learned? What are some key differentiators of you're like, I didn't think about this before.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. So what are some of your biggest takeaways? I'd also ask what are some things that you've actually put into action since you started listening? And what do you want
is something
to know from us?
you want to learn? It could be anything. Yeah, from us. And we'll come on here and answer those sometime in the next couple of days. That would be fun. All right. We're going to dive into the chapter 12. If you're following along, use goals to help you grow. So I'll read some of this and then baby, you can throw in whatever you want to say. A goal is an object, a purpose. A goal is more than a dream. It's a dream being acted upon. A goal is more than a I'm so sorry. It is not very good lighting.
Would you like me to read it?
Maybe. No, I can totally read it. My eyes are just focusing.
A goal is more than a hazy. Oh, I wish I could. A goal is clear. That is what I'm working towards. It's so important. Nothing happens. No forward steps are taken until a goal is established. Without goals, individuals just wander through life. They stumble along, never knowing where they are going, so they never get anywhere.
Babe, that's so good. Last part.
All right, you want me to read this too?
Goals are essential to success as air is to life.
Why is that so important to you?
Well, I think oftentimes, because we're going to go through this in the book, and I say it here often, you look at somebody, and it's so easy to watch people on social media to have that overnight success, or to watch other people and go, I wish I had, because everybody has dreams and goals inside of them. It just depends on if you're going after them, or if you're seeking after them, if you're learning, if you're being educated on how to achieve those goals. But oftentimes we get so frustrated in self-doubt, or he's going to talk about some things that make it so people don't chase them.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
No one ever lives without air. Get a clear fix on where you want to go.
So you need to know the destination?
I think sometimes people come on here. So let me ask you this. What is a goal that you have in your health? Let's just ask you a health goal. Sometimes people go, I want to lose weight. Is that a goal?
Sure. It is a goal.
Okay. Do you think people are achieving their goal if it's not a specific goal?
No, there it is. It has to be specific. And usually I'd say this, goals need to be SMART goals. So they need to be specific. Right. They need to be measurable. They need to be achievable. They need to be realistic, and they need to be time sensitive. So they have to have a date or a stamp on them, because otherwise you kind of just drift. And that's the unfortunate thing, is you don't want to just get in this hypnotic rhythm. You don't want to just get stuck up in the wrong drifting, because the reality is, like, the time is constantly going. And if you're not specific, if you're not focused, if you don't have a plan in place, guess what? The chances of you actually hitting that goal is slim. Right.
Or sometimes you hit a goal, and if you haven't put specific habits and systems in place, you just, let's say let's just say an instance, since you're on here, it's weight gain and weight loss. Oftentimes, if people have not switched their habits or haven't even truly held on to why they want it, they end up gaining it back.
That's true.
So
systems and habits are everything. They really are.
Okay, the important thing is not where we are, or where we were or where we are, but where you want to go.
So I'm curious, comment down below, where is it that you want to go? And at the same time, I'm going to ask Stephanie that same question. Stephanie, sweetheart, where is it that you want to go?
Are you asking me? That's pretty broad.
Yeah. So when I read that sentence, it's like, where do you want to go?
Okay, so let me tell you something first. He says, visualize your future in 3 different departments.
Okay,
work,
pick one
home,
of the 3.
and social.
Work,
well,
home,
because if you
and
ask
social.
people what their goals, my mind immediately goes, well, what do you want me to talk about? Because, like, I've got goals for our children right now. Like, he asked me this last night when we were laying in bed. And I said, well,
I think I got this.
Not true. Not true. Does anybody else go to bed and you've got one that stays up and asks questions and one that just wants to go to bed? We get into bed and I'm just about sleeping and he'll be like, what do you want to talk about? Nothing. I want to go to bed.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Every night. Every night. What are your dreams? He's very much like tell me your passionate desires. Tell me what you need in life. What are you shooting for? Tell me all of the things. And I'm like, can we talk about this tomorrow? Right?
Well, then it's a silence, and then I'm thinking she's falling asleep. And then I think to myself, oh, she's just thinking.
You guys, every night. Does anybody else deal with this? Is it just me?
All right.
Okay.
Back to work, home, or
Here's
social.
what he said. If you visualize your future in 3 departments, work, home, and social. And he said, I really liked this. Divide your life in these ways keeps you from becoming confused. Oftentimes I think, like, I have work goals. I have goals for our business. I have goals. We've got goals for investments that we're working on that we made. Like you would say, we planted some really big seeds this last month, right? If you guys understand seed and harvest, farming, like, we're doing different things in our business. In our relationships, like, I have big goals for our girls to help truly understand the God-given talents that God's gifted them with, to help understand what they are and to help them understand how to follow them and go after the things they're called to do in life.
I like it.
That sounds broad, but in my head, I'm legitimately watching our kids every day going, they're great at this. They're great at this. How do we do something with this? So one of our daughters says she wants to speak or be a speaker or just inspire teens. So we started a podcast, right? One of our daughters loves horses, so we're taking horse lessons. What else can we do for her to learn? She's watching YouTube videos on how to learn about horses. So there's just things that I'm just watching to observe. If you don't do this for your kids, observe the things that they're great at. That's something that I'm really passionate about, is helping our girls figure out their gifts and talents.
It's true. Well, another thing, you want to become a better communicator. And so you invested into a program. Right. Invested into basically a program to help you become a better communicator. Right. And at the same time, you still got to practice. Right. Just got to be great practice. So it's cool because I'm seeing the comments, I'm seeing the chat thread about some of the goals that you all are going for. Yeah. And I would just encourage you to know that you're worth it too. At the same time, so often people are like, oh, well, I'll just get to that later. And they kind of just push it off to the back burner. But I mean, those things that you want to accomplish, they are important. They're the reason why I truly believe that you're here. And so those goals will help you step into your ideal self. So if you want to see other people succeed, just know that you're worth that same thing.
Right.
So you're worth the time, you're worth the investment. And I think it's really cool that you're checking out this live. I think it's cool to the people who share this page and who invite others to join the journey, because we're better together. And I think it's cool when we get to do this.
I agree. He says you need precise answers to what do I want to accomplish in my life? What do I want to be? And what does it take to satisfy me? So then if you're reading the book, he gives you specific questions on like work environment, home environment, social environment. So he'll break it down in years. He tells a ton of stories. I really wanted to read something specific. He says this: remember this, a man is not doing much until the cause he works for possesses all there is of him. He shares stories of people doing life, like living a mediocre, comfortable life because their family told them they had to do something, or it was something that was expected of them, versus, we learned about this yesterday, passion and desire. Yep. And he says, you won't be fulfilled in life or feel fulfilled unless you're doing the things that are on your heart and you're longing to do.
Mm-hmm. So good. Well, the other thing, too, that I've kind of realized is a lot of time we have an idea of what we want to accomplish. We have that goal, or we're set out on that certain something. What I would encourage you to do sometime this week is to go and visit that place. Go visit that person. What I mean by that is put yourself in an environment where you can feel it, where you can see it. Because then I believe it becomes tangible, like, I've seen it, I've felt it, I've smelt it, I've tasted it, whatever the case may be, and now I believe that I can achieve these things.
Right.
And then what's so great is then you just put in the habits and the systems to be able to accomplish those. It's cool even seeing the comments. People are putting dates behind some of the goals that they're going after. I think it's so smart.
Right. I love it. He says you have to have an awareness of, I think it's 5 things that come against you that would stop you from going after the desires, the goals, the things that you want to achieve. Number 1 is depreciation. Is that right?
Depreciation.
Depreciation? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't need glasses. No. I don't.
I can help you read some of these if you want me to.
Securititis.
Well, these are just funny words. Yeah, so do you want to tell them what some of these things are?
Okay, you read it.
All right, so with the self-depreciation, you have heard dozens of people say, I would like to be a doctor or an executive or an artist, or I want to have my own business, but I can't do it. It's so crazy. How many people do you hear say, I can't do that, or I can't do this? The reality is you need to bury that apostrophe T and know that you can do it.
Right.
I lack brains. I'd fail if I tried. I don't even like saying some of these things out loud. It makes me feel nasty.
Right.
But the reality is so many people say these types of things.
Right.
I lack the education. I don't have the experience. Many young folks they're blame, shaming, and justifying the reason why they are in a self-depreciation type mentality. Securititis, persons who say, I've got security where I am, the security weapons.
It's really sitting in comfort zones. So securititis, like you don't want to go after something that you want because you're so secure in where you're at. You might not love it, but it's easy, comfortable. You understand how it works.
You were not created to sit on the sidelines of life. Get in the game. That's what I think of.
Competition.
Ooh, competition can raise your standards, though.
Right. People feel like they can't go after a goal or a dream. Maybe it's a career because there's too much competition. It's already overdone.
That is true. How many of you have ever had just the small-minded thinking mindset where you're like, oh, well, there's already this person, and then you start comparing. Like you see it in the Olympics happen all the time, or in sports where people look to the left and they see the person just passing them, and then they lose the race by 1/10 of a second. Right. But guess what? There's more in you. You can do this.
Or just understand that the world is pretty big.
Ooh, parental dictation.
This is based on doing things because your family told you had to.
Well, and
growing up,
it is interesting. I mean, we talk about your environment. We've been watching this show called Anne with an E, and
like anybody watching Anne of Green Gables
from the 1800s.
We've been watching it with our girls.
And one thing that I love about watching a TV show with the girls is the ability to be able to stop and talk through different situations, or to be able to have conversations of like, well, why are they thinking this way? Why did they do that? It's so important.
But why did you bring up Anne with an E?
Well, because in there, people so often, they were small-minded thinking. Like, all they knew is what they knew, right? They didn't have access to technology. They didn't have access to certain things. I'm not saying turn on the news. don't do that. They didn't have that. They barely had the newspaper.
Right.
All they knew is what they knew. And I think we sometimes can live inside of that box as well. And I think I would encourage you to figure out how to break out of that box.
I actually was thinking about that. I was driving around town yesterday and I was thinking, man, you don't know until you know. Like, you have your life, you have your environment, your work, your kids, everything that you know. And then somebody teaches you something. You read a book, and then you know, and then it's up to you to take action on that. We all live in our own little worlds. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I did not realize that I should be working on my mindset, because if I work on my mindset, I'm going to be happier. I'm going to be a better mom. I'm going to do my job better. I'm going to make better choices. I had no idea. And now that you know, you're responsible for the things you know.
So good.
Right?
I mean, I just think, like, raise your standards, raise your life.
Right.
Change your thinking, improve your life. Get around people who are going to push you. Get around people and in situations, and get around environments that are going to help you grow.
Right. It's true.
I mean, and some of those steps that you have to take can be some of the most faith-filled steps you will ever take.
He talks about that. That's the last thing we're going to talk about.
Well, look at that. It's like I helped him write this book. Or it's just because I read it.
Oftentimes we have a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan, or your 2-week fat loss plan really should be a year plan, right? Mm-hmm. But he says step-by-step method is the only intelligent way to attain an object. Step by step, one day at a time. So I think we can go, okay, I've got these huge, huge goals. And then what he says is, it could be as simple as a pastor doing his next sermon, or a salesman making his next sale, or an accountant creating the next sheet. Like, sometimes we go, I've got these goals and dreams. What is my big next step? And the next step might not be fun or even feel like it's meaningful, but it's the next step towards your goal.
It's true. It's like a lot of you probably in your fat loss journey, you're like, the cake tastes so good. I'm going to just eat the cake today. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Because I ate the salad yesterday. I ate the piece of steak today. And, like, I didn't drop my 14 pounds of fat loss.
Right.
And it's like, what people don't realize is that one day does make a big difference in the grand scheme of the decisions.
Right.
It's stacking those right habits. But so often we're just like, well, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter.
Or it doesn't seem significant in the day.
Right.
Like, you don't see a 10-pound weight gain eating a piece of cake. But if you've listened to us read the book Atomic Habits or Miracle Morning, you understand that little teeny tiny steps each day make a difference of, at the end of the year, if you head towards your goals or way far away from your goals.
So good. It's everything.
So he just said, be clear. We don't make one big giant step to success. It's step by step, day by day. That's really the basics of the rest of the book. Taking action. What's the next step you need to take?
So good.
Towards any of your goals. Work, relationships.
That's a great question. What's your next step today? What are you going to put into action? Steph, is there anything that's on your list of what you're going to take action on?
I think we're gonna do another podcast hopefully today, if we make time to do it. I did have goals, and now I'm drawing a blank. Let me think for a second. What about you?
It's okay. Well, so what happened, I wish I could show you on my phone right now, but I made a little list, and basically there's certain big ticket items, goals that we work towards. Mm-hmm. And in order for me to hit some of those, it just comes down to the daily discipline of doing those things. So a lot of it is, we started our morning with some reading. Stephanie's been encouraging me to hop on this live, which is hopefully going to help me become a better presenter, to be able to encourage more people. And the biggest thing is we homeschool our kids, so it's being intentional with the time that we spend with them. But here's the biggest ticket for me is for so often I've kind of been just like this with my health and fitness. Mm-hmm. And I love it because we've got a really good plan in place to where it's like I've got a good routine of, I kind of look like I'm not actually trying to hit Stephanie. I'm showing you the progress.
You have specific DMOs in your life. We talk about that in business and personal.
It's so good. What's a DMO?
It's called your daily method of operation. I've talked about it on here before, but what do you do every single day to move your business, your life, your goals, little steps that other people might not even see or acknowledge, but you know you did it no matter what. Whether you don't feel like doing it. So in business, we've got specific goals. In our personal life, whether it's reading or journaling or getting up and doing little things every day to move us into a better place later.
It's so true. Well, the crazy thing is sometimes you can also justify the reason why you're not doing the other things. Like, well, I had a friend send me a video the other day of someone who legitimately weighed 600 pounds and they were sharing their story. And it could be really easy in that situation to say, well, I'm doing great compared to that person, right? But the reality is you should only be in competition with yourself.
Right.
Like at the end of your life, what do you want to see your ideal self, or do you want to be like, well, that's who you were supposed to be, but you're so far from it because you kept saying no to the things that you should have been saying yes to?
So good. Was this helpful? I hope it was helpful. All right. What are you going after today? A goal or just one little thing that's going to move you forward in your work, relationships? What was the other one?
It could be your work, your relationships.
No, the three
three
things.
buckets.
Yeah.
Work, life, and I can't remember.
I don't
Got to
either.
find it.
It's fine.
Oh, we got to go back. We didn't write it down. Now I feel like we have to find it.
We have to find it.
Right there. Social. Oh, work, home, and social.
Yeah.
3 departments.
3 departments.
We're super close.
All right, we're almost done with the book. We've got one more chapter. We'll wrap this up tomorrow. Then if you've got specific questions on anything that you want to learn about, some people ask about, we've talked about EQ and AQ, emotional quotient, adaptability, how to handle anything, mindfulness, what do you want to hear about?
Right.
Post those questions below. Otherwise, this is the book that we will start in April. Whether you have it or don't have the book, you can tune in here and we'll give you some things to think about. Otherwise, that's it. We'd love for you to press the share button. I like to say sharing is caring so other people can hop on and learn as well. Anything else?
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a part of this community. I can't wait to read the comments because there was a lot of great goals that were in there. So send us your goals.
Yes, and
Put them in the
take
comments or
action.
send us a message.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.